The snow fell in thick, relentless sheets, turning Manhattan into a blurred canvas of white and gray. I pressed myself against the stone wall of a closed boutique, my thin coat doing nothing against the wind that cut through me like a knife. My fingers were numb, my lips cracked and bleeding from the cold. I'd been walking for hours, turning down random streets with no destination in mind. Just moving. Always moving. Because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering. Remembering Marcus. My hand instinctively went to my ribs, where the bruises from 3 nights ago still throbbed with each breath. Purple and yellow blossoms of violence that marked me as his, even now, even after I'd finally found the courage to run. The streets were empty, the storm having driven everyone indoors hours ago. I should have found a shelter. Should have called one of the domestic violence hotlines I'd memorized during those long nights when Marcus worked late shifts. But he was a cop, a detective with the NYPD. He knew every shelter in the city, had friends in every precinct. The first place I'd tried, a church basement in Brooklyn, the volunteer had looked at me with something like pity, before quietly suggesting I might want to try somewhere else. I'd seen her phone screen as I turned away, Marcus's name at the top of her recent calls. He'd found me within 6 hours. I'd barely escaped that time, slipping out a back window while he charmed his way past the front desk with his badge and his practiced smile. The smile that had fooled me for 2 years. The smile that made everyone believe he was one of the good guys. A gust of wind nearly knocked me off my feet, and I stumbled forward, my vision blurring. I couldn't feel my toes anymore. Couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten. The $23 in my pocket, all I'd managed to grab before fleeing our apartment, wouldn't get me far. Not in this city. Not in this storm. I turned down another street, this one lined with upscale brownstones, their warm windows like accusations. Behind those doors, people were safe. Behind those doors, women didn't flinch at sudden movements or scan every room for exits. That's when I saw it. A black SUV parked at the curb, its engine running, exhaust creating small clouds in the frigid air. My frozen brain processed this slowly. Someone had left it running. Maybe they'd just ducked inside for something. Maybe they'd be gone for a few minutes. Just a few minutes to warm up. Just enough to feel my fingers again. I approached cautiously, my boots crunching in the fresh snow. The windows were tinted dark, impossible to see through. I circled to the driver's side, peered in. Empty. The interior lights were off, but I could see the dashboard glowing softly, could hear the gentle hum of the heater. My hand was on the door handle before I could talk myself out of it. It opened easily. Unlocked. The wave of warm air that hit me was almost painful against my frozen skin. I climbed in quickly, pulling the door shut behind me, and immediately pressed myself low in the seat, terrified that whoever owned this vehicle would appear any second. Seconds passed, then minutes. No one came. The leather seats were heated. I could feel warmth seeping through my damp jeans, into my frozen bones. I held my hands in front of the heating vents, watching my fingers slowly turn from white to pink. The pain of circulation returning was excruciating, but I welcomed it. Pain meant I was alive. Pain meant I was still fighting. I shouldn't stay. I knew I shouldn't. But the warmth was hypnotic, and I was so tired. So bone-deep, soul-crushingly tired. My eyes drifted closed, just for a moment. Just to rest. The sound of voices outside jerked me back to consciousness. Male voices, speaking in low tones. Close. Too close. Panic seized me. I looked around wildly, searching for somewhere to hide in the spacious interior. The back seat. I could climb into the back. Maybe they wouldn't notice. But as I started to move, the door clicked. They were unlocking it from the outside. I froze, pressing myself as far down into the passenger seat as I could manage, making myself as small as possible. The door opened, and I squeezed my eyes shut like a child, as if not seeing them meant they wouldn't see me. "Boss, we should—" A man's voice cut off abruptly. "What the fuck?" "What?" Another voice, deeper, with a subtle accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. The voice held authority, the kind that didn't need volume to command attention. "There's someone in your car." Silence. Then footsteps crunching through snow, approaching the passenger side. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing shallow, knowing it was pointless, but unable to stop the instinct to hide. The passenger door opened. "Look at me." The command was quiet, but absolute. The kind of voice that expected obedience without question. Against my better judgment, I opened my eyes. The man standing beside the open door was not what I expected. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a wool coat that probably cost more than my yearly salary as a waitress. But it was his face that held me frozen. Sharp features, dark eyes that seemed to see everything. A slight scar along his jawline that should have made him look dangerous, but instead made him devastatingly handsome. He couldn't have been more than 35, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Please," I heard myself whisper. "I'm sorry. I was just trying to warm up. I'll go. I'm sorry." He studied me for a long moment, those dark eyes cataloging every detail. My wet hair plastered to my face, my cheap coat with the broken zipper, the way I was curled protectively into myself. His gaze lingered on my face, and I knew what he was seeing. The bruise along my cheekbone that I'd tried to cover with makeup that morning. The split in my lower lip that had just started to heal. "Marco," he said, not taking his eyes off me. "Get in the driver's seat." "Boss?" The other man sounded uncertain. "Now." The authority in that single word was absolute. I heard Marco move, heard the driver's door open and close. The man in front of me, the boss, climbed into the passenger side, forcing me to scramble into the middle seat to make room. He pulled the door shut, sealing us in together. "Drive," he ordered, and Marco didn't question it. The SUV pulled smoothly into traffic, or what passed for traffic in this storm. I pressed myself against the far door, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might bruise my ribs all over again. "What's your name?" the man asked. His voice was calmer now, almost gentle, but I'd learned not to trust gentle voices. "Sophie," I answered, because lying seemed pointless. "Sophie," he repeated, testing the name. "I'm Sebastian, and you're going to tell me who did that to your face." It wasn't a request. I looked away, staring at the blurred lights passing outside the window. "No one?" I fell. "Try again." The steel in his voice made me flinch. "I don't know you. I'm not telling you anything." He was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke again, there was something almost like respect in his tone. "Fair enough, but you were willing to freeze to death rather than go home. That tells me enough." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the heated seats. I wasn't trying to freeze, I needed somewhere warm, just for a few minutes. I didn't think anyone would notice. "You broke into my car. The door was unlocked." The words came out sharper than I intended. "And I didn't break anything. I'm sorry. You can let me out anywhere. I'll find somewhere else." "In this storm." He gestured to the window, where the snow was falling even heavier now. "You'd be dead in an hour." "That's not your problem." "It is now." I turned to stare at him. "What?" Sebastian leaned back in his seat, completely at ease, as if having strange women in his car was a regular occurrence. "You're staying with me. Tonight, at least. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." "I'm not going anywhere with you. I don't know you. You could be—" I stopped myself, but he smiled slightly, a knowing curve of his lips. Dangerous? He supplied. I am, but not to you. You can't just kidnap people. I'm not kidnapping you. I'm offering you shelter from a snowstorm that's already killed 3 people tonight according to the news. If you want to leave, I'll have Marco drop you anywhere you'd like. He paused, but we both know you have nowhere to go. The truth of it hit me like a physical blow. He was right. I had nothing. No money, no friends I could trust who weren't connected to Marcus somehow, no family close enough to help. I'd burned through my few remaining options in the past 72 hours. Why? I asked quietly. Why would you help me? Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. Let's just say I have a particular hatred for men who hurt women. The way he said it made me believe him, which was probably foolish. But I was cold and tired and out of options, and the warmth of this car was seductive enough to make me lower my guard. Just tonight, I said finally. Just tonight, he agreed, though something in his tone suggested he was lying. Sebastian's home wasn't a home. It was a fortress disguised as a mansion. Marco drove us through increasingly upscale neighborhoods until we reached a private drive, where a gate opened automatically at our approach. The house beyond was massive, 3 stories of stone and glass perched on what must have been acres of property. Even through the heavy snowfall, I could see the meticulous landscaping, the subtle security cameras, the sense of wealth so profound it didn't need to announce itself. This is where you live? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Sebastian glanced at me. Does that surprise you? I thought you'd just drop me at a hotel or something. I don't do things halfway, Sophie. The way he said my name sent an unexpected shiver through me that had nothing to do with the cold. The car stopped under a covered portico, where a man in a suit immediately appeared with an umbrella, though we barely needed it for the few steps to the entrance. Inside, warmth enveloped me immediately, along with the scent of expensive wood polish and something cooking that made my stomach clench with sudden hunger. The entry hall was twice the size of the apartment I'd shared with Marcus. Marble floors, a sweeping staircase, artwork that looked original and priceless. A woman in her 50s, dressed in neat black slacks and a crisp white blouse, appeared from a side door. Mr. Moretti, you're back. I wasn't expecting... She stopped when she saw me, her professional mask slipping for just a moment. Mrs. Chen, this is Sophie. She'll be staying with us. Sebastian shrugged out of his coat, handing it to another staff member who'd materialized silently. She'll need a room prepared, warm clothes, and dinner. Of course, sir. Mrs. Chen's surprise was quickly concealed behind efficiency. Right away. I don't need all that, I protested. Really, just somewhere warm to sleep. I'll be gone in the morning. Sebastian turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something like amusement in his dark eyes. Humor me. Before I could argue, Mrs. Chen was gently shepherding me toward the staircase. Come, dear. Let's get you out of those wet clothes before you catch your death. I followed because I didn't know what else to do, acutely aware of Sebastian's gaze on me as I climbed the stairs. Mrs. Chen led me down a hallway lined with more artwork, to a room that was larger than my entire former apartment. The bathroom is through there. She indicated an open door. I'll find you something to wear while your clothes are laundered. Do you have any preferences for dinner? I stared at her, overwhelmed. Anything. I'm not picky. Her expression softened. When did you last eat, dear? The question made my throat tighten. Yesterday morning. Maybe. I don't remember exactly. She nodded, as if this confirmed something. I'll have something sent up right away. In the meantime, there's a robe in the bathroom. Take your time with the shower. You look frozen through. After she left, I stood in the center of the room, feeling completely out of place. The bed was enormous, with what looked like Egyptian cotton sheets. A sitting area by the window held a plush couch and chairs. My entire life could have fit in this room with space left over. The bathroom was equally impressive. Marble everywhere, a shower that could fit 4 people, a soaking tub I desperately wanted to sink into. But paranoia won out. I chose the shower instead, keeping it quick, constantly listening for any sound that might indicate danger. The hot water felt like absolution, washing away not just the grime of 3 days on the streets, but some of the bone-deep exhaustion I'd been carrying. I found expensive shampoo and soap, used them sparingly, and emerged feeling almost human again. The robe Mrs. Chen had mentioned was thick and warm, pure white terry cloth that probably cost more than my car payment used to. I wrapped myself in it and returned to the bedroom to find clothes laid out on the bed, soft gray sweatpants, a cashmere sweater, wool socks. All in my size, which should have alarmed me, but instead just added to the surreal quality of everything. I'd just finished dressing when someone knocked softly. "Come in," I called, expecting Mrs. Chen. Sebastian entered instead, carrying a tray. He'd changed too, now wearing dark jeans and a black sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders. Casual, but still somehow commanding. "Mrs. Chen is preparing a proper meal, but I thought you might want this immediately." He set the tray on the small table by the window. Soup, bread, cheese, fruit. Simple food, but it smelled like heaven. "Thank you," I said quietly, moving to sit. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up the spoon, and I saw him notice. He took the chair across from me, watching as I ate. I should have felt self-conscious, but hunger overrode everything else. The soup was rich and warming, made from scratch. Nothing like the canned variety I'd survived on. "Better?" he asked after I'd made significant progress. "Much, thank you, for all of this." I gestured vaguely. "I don't understand why you're doing this, but I'm grateful. Tell me about him." The abrupt shift made me freeze, spoon halfway to my mouth. "What?" "The man who hurt you. Tell me about him." "I don't want to talk about Marcus." Sebastian's expression darkened at the name. "Marcus? Last name? Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm going to make sure he never touches you again." The certainty in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it sent a strange warmth through my chest. "You can't do anything. He's a cop. Detective Marcus Sullivan, NYPD. He has friends everywhere, connections. That's why I can't go to the police. Why I can't—" I stopped, realizing I was saying too much. But Sebastian's face had gone completely still. "Marcus Sullivan. You know him?" "I know of him." His jaw tightened. "He's dirty, taking payments from the Albanian crew that operates in Queens. I've had people looking into him for months." My spoon clattered against the bowl. "What?" "Your boyfriend is on the payroll of one of my competitors. Has been for at least a year, probably longer." Sebastian leaned forward. "What else do you know about his extracurricular activities?" "I don't know anything. I thought he was just a detective. I didn't know about any of this." But even as I said it, I remembered things. Strange phone calls Marcus took in other rooms. Money he claimed was from overtime. The way he'd grown increasingly paranoid over the past few months. "How long were you together?" 2 years. We lived together for the last 8 months. I wrapped my arms around myself. He wasn't always like this. At first, he was. He made me feel safe, protected. But then things changed. He became controlling, jealous. The first time he hit me was 6 months ago. "And you stayed." There was no judgment in his tone, just a statement of fact. But I felt defensive anyway. I tried to leave twice before. Both times he found me. Both times he promised it would be different. And I believed him because I wanted to. Because I thought I loved him. Past tense. I stopped loving him the night he broke my ribs and told me if I ever tried to leave again, he'd kill me. I believed that too. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. When did you run? 3 days ago. He was working a double shift. I grabbed what I could and left. I've been moving ever since, trying to stay ahead of him. But he knows this city better than I do. He knows where I'd go, who I'd talk to. I was running out of options when I found your car. You're safe now, am I? I met his gaze directly. You say he's working for your competitors. That means you're involved in whatever they're involved in. Crime, illegal things. Why should I trust you any more than I trusted him? To his credit, Sebastian didn't insult me by denying it. You shouldn't. Trust is earned, not given. But I can promise you this. I've never hit a woman. I never will. And anyone who does forfeits their right to keep breathing as far as I'm concerned. The cold finality in his voice made me shiver. You're talking about killing him. I'm talking about justice, the kind that doesn't require courtrooms or judges who can be bought. I don't want anyone dead because of me. Then you're more merciful than I am. He stood, moving to the window that overlooked the snow-covered grounds. Marcus Sullivan is a problem that needs solving regardless of you, Sophie. The fact that he hurt you just moves him higher on my priority list. I set down my spoon, my appetite suddenly gone. What are you exactly? What do you do? He turned to face me, and in the soft lamplight he looked almost ordinary, almost like just a handsome man in an expensive home. But I knew better now. I run a family business, import-export, real estate, various investments. Some of it is entirely legal, some of it. He shrugged elegantly. Some of it operates in gray areas. The Mafia. That's such a dramatic term. I prefer to think of myself as a businessman with diverse interests. Who kills people? Who protects what's his and eliminates threats? He moved closer, and I found myself unable to look away from his intense gaze. You're under my protection now, Sophie. That means Marcus Sullivan is a threat to what's mine. Do you understand? My mouth went dry. I'm not yours. Not yet. The quiet confidence in those two words sent heat rushing through me. But you will be. I should have argued. Should have told him he was insane, that I'd just escaped one controlling man and wasn't about to walk into the arms of another. But something in the way he looked at me, not with Marcus's possessive rage, but with a protective intensity that made me feel seen, valued, kept me silent. A knock at the door broke the moment. Mrs. Chen entered with another staff member, both carrying trays laden with what looked like a full meal. Your dinner, dear, Mrs. Chen said warmly. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I prepared a variety. There was pasta, salad, bread that was clearly fresh-baked, and some kind of chicken that smelled incredible. More food than I could eat in 3 days. This is too much, I protested. Eat what you can, Sebastian said. You need your strength. Tomorrow, we'll discuss what happens next. He moved toward the door, and I found myself not wanting him to leave, which was crazy. I'd known this man for less than 2 hours. Sebastian? He turned back. Why are you really doing this? He was quiet for a moment, something dark passing across his face. Because 7 years ago my sister was in a situation similar to yours. She called me for help, but I was in Milan on business. I told her to wait, that I'd handle it when I got back. His jaw tightened. She didn't wait. She went back to him instead. He beat her to death before I could get home. The raw pain in his voice made my chest ache. I'm sorry. I swore I'd never let another woman suffer, because I didn't act quickly enough. So when I find someone freezing in my car with bruises that look like his handprints. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I'm not your sister. No, you're not. You're stronger. You ran before it was too late. But that doesn't mean you should have to do this alone. After he left, I sat staring at the closed door for a long time, trying to process everything. I'd gone from homeless and terrified to a guest in a mansion, protected by a man who was probably more dangerous than Marcus could ever be. A man who killed people. A man who just declared me his to protect. I should have been planning my escape. Should have been looking for the exits, figuring out how to slip away in the morning before I got any more entangled in Sebastian Moretti's world. Instead, I found myself eating the incredible food Mrs. Chen had prepared, allowing myself to feel safe for the first time in months, and trying to ignore the small voice in the back of my mind that whispered I'd just traded one cage for another, even if this one was lined with cashmere and kindness. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the disorienting softness of sheets that felt like clouds. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. My hand instinctively reaching for the alarm clock that wasn't there. My body tensing in preparation for Marcus's morning routine. The way he'd wake me with his hands already demanding, ownership claimed before I'd even opened my eyes. But Marcus wasn't here. I was in Sebastian Moretti's mansion, in a bed larger than my old bedroom, wearing borrowed clothes that probably cost more than everything I'd owned. I sat up slowly, taking in the room in daylight. It was even more beautiful than I'd realized last night. Cream walls, dark wood furniture that looked antique, and those windows that offered a view of snow-covered gardens that seemed to stretch forever. A winter wonderland that should have felt peaceful, but instead made me acutely aware of how trapped I was. The storm had dumped at least 2 feet overnight, and everything beyond the windows was pristine white. A soft knock at the door made me pull the covers up protectively. Yes? Mrs. Chen entered carrying another tray. Good morning, dear. I hope you slept well. I did, actually. The admission surprised me. For the first time in months, I'd slept without nightmares, without jerking awake at every sound. I've brought breakfast. Mr. Moretti asked that you join him in his study when you're ready, but there's no rush. She set the tray on the bedside table. Coffee, fruit, pastries that looked homemade. There are fresh clothes in the closet. I had to guess at sizes, but hopefully something will work. After she left, I moved to the closet and found it stocked with several outfits, all in my size. The precision of it should have alarmed me. How had they gotten my exact measurements? But I was too focused on the clothes themselves. Designer jeans, soft sweaters, even undergarments still in their packaging. Everything I'd need to stay for more than just one night. I dressed in dark jeans and a cream sweater, the fabric so soft it felt like a caress. Looking at myself in the full-length mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. No bruises visible anymore. They'd faded to yellow smudges easily covered with makeup someone had thoughtfully left on the bathroom counter. My hair, washed and dried, looked healthier than it had in months. I looked almost like the person I'd been before Marcus, before the fear had taken permanent residence in my eyes. The study was easier to find than I'd expected. I simply followed the sound of Sebastian's voice. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian that I couldn't follow, his back to the door as he stood at the window. I hesitated in the doorway, unsure if I should interrupt. He must have sensed my presence because he turned, his eyes finding mine immediately. Something shifted in his expression. Softened, maybe, though it was hard to tell with a man who kept his emotions so carefully controlled. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, switching to English. "Yes, handle it." He ended the call and gestured to the chairs positioned in front of his desk. "Sophie, did you sleep?" "Better than I have in a long time." I took one of the chairs, very aware of how his gaze tracked my movement. "Thank you again. For all of this. You don't need to keep thanking me." He moved to sit behind his desk, putting a barrier between us that somehow felt deliberate. "We need to discuss your situation. I'll leave today. The storm's over, and I'm sure I've imposed enough. You're not leaving." The flatness of his tone made me stiffen. "Excuse me?" "It's not safe. Marcus knows by now that you've been gone more than a few hours. He'll be looking for you everywhere. And if my suspicions about his involvement with the Albanians are correct, he has resources you can't even imagine. So I'm supposed to just stay here? Forever? Until the situation is resolved. And when will that be?" Sebastian leaned back in his chair, studying me with those dark, assessing eyes. "When Marcus Sullivan is no longer a threat." The implication was clear. "You're going to kill him." "I'm going to eliminate a corrupt police officer who's working with my enemies and happens to beat women in his spare time. The fact that he's your ex is almost secondary." Almost. A slight smile curved his lips, there and gone so quickly I almost missed it. "You deserve justice, Sophie. Real justice, not the kind that puts you in front of a judge while his cop friends testify about what a good guy he is." I wanted to argue, but he was right. I'd looked into restraining orders during one of my previous attempts to leave. Marcus's partner had laughed, actually laughed, when I'd called the domestic violence hotline from a burner phone. "Marcus Sullivan? No way. Guy's a Boy Scout. You must have done something to piss him off." "What if I don't want you to kill him?" I asked quietly. "What if I just want to disappear, start over somewhere he'll never find me? Then I'll help you do that." He said it so simply, as if relocating someone's entire life was as easy as ordering coffee. But it won't stop him from hurting the next woman, or the one after that. Men like him don't change, Sophie. They just find new victims. The truth of it sat heavy in my chest. I thought of the blonde I'd seen Marcus talking to at a police charity event last year. The way she'd laughed at something he said, completely unaware of what he really was. How long until he had his hooks in her? How long until she was the one with bruises she covered with makeup? "I don't know if I can live with having someone's death on my conscience," I admitted. "Then you won't. I'll handle it, and you'll simply move forward with your life. Free. Safe." He paused. "Under my protection." "For how long?" "As long as you need it, or want it." The way he said the last part made heat curl low in my stomach. I stood abruptly, needing to move, to put distance between us and whatever this tension was building between us. I moved to the window, looking out at the pristine snow. "I don't understand you," I said to my reflection in the glass. "You're involved in organized crime. You hurt people, probably kill them. But you're offering to protect me, to help me. Why?" "I told you about my sister. That's not all of it." I turned to face him. "There's something else." For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he stood, moving around the desk to lean against it, arms crossed over his chest. The casual pose did nothing to diminish the predatory grace of his movement. "You're right. There is something else." His gaze held mine. "From the moment you opened your eyes in my car last night, I knew you were different. The way you looked at me, not with fear exactly, but with this fierce determination to survive. You were half frozen, clearly terrified, but you still had fight in you. Lots of people have fight in them. Not like yours. Most people who've been through what you have, they're broken. You're bent, maybe. Bruised. But not broken." He moved closer, and I found myself unable to step back. "I want you, Sophie. I want you safe and protected, and in my life. And I always get what I want." My breath caught. "You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're smart. Smart enough to run before it was too late. I know you're resourceful. You survived 3 days on the streets in winter. I know you're loyal. You stayed with him longer than you should have because you believed in the man you thought he was." He reached out, his fingers gently tilting my chin up so I couldn't look away. "And I know that when I touch you, your pulse speeds up, just like it's doing right now." He was right. My heart was hammering. but not from fear. This was something else entirely, something dangerous and tempting and absolutely insane. "This is crazy," I whispered. "Probably." His thumb traced along my jaw, achingly gentle. "But I've built an empire on calculated risks, and you, Sophie Marshall, are worth the risk. You don't know my last name. I know everything about you. Sophie Elizabeth Marshall, 27, from upstate New York. Parents divorced when you were 12. Moved to the city 5 years ago to attend culinary school, but dropped out after a year due to finances. Worked as a waitress at 3 different restaurants before meeting Marcus Sullivan 2 years ago. No criminal record, not even a parking ticket. Favorite color is blue. You're allergic to shellfish, and you have a scar on your left ankle from falling off a bike when you were 9. I stared at him, shock warring with anger. You had me investigated. I had my people pull your basic information last night while you slept. I needed to know who you were. If there were other complications I should be aware of. He didn't look remotely apologetic. I protect what's mine, Sophie. That means knowing everything. I'm not yours. Not yet, he repeated, just as he had last night. But you could be, if you'd let yourself. I just got out of one relationship with a controlling man. I'm not looking to jump into another. Something dark flickered across his face. I'm nothing like Marcus Sullivan, aren't you? You're making decisions about my life without consulting me. You had me investigated without permission. You're talking about killing someone and expecting me to just accept it. The difference, he said, his voice dropping to something almost dangerous, is that everything I do is to protect you, not control you. I had you investigated to make sure there were no other threats. I'm handling Marcus because he will hunt you for the rest of your life if I don't. And yes, I'm making decisions, but I'll never make you do anything you don't want to do. Except stay here. You want to leave? He stepped back, giving me space. Say the word. I'll have Marco drive you anywhere you want to go. Give you money, new identity, whatever you need to start over. But I think we both know that's not what you really want. You don't know what I want, don't I? His gaze dropped to my lips, and I felt the look like a physical touch. You want to feel safe. You want someone strong enough to stand between you and the monsters, but gentle enough not to become one himself. You want passion without violence, protection without prison. He moved closer again, until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. You want to stop running, and I'm offering you the chance to stand still, to breathe, to live, without looking over your shoulder. God help me, he was right. I did want all of that. I wanted to stop running, to stop being afraid, and this man, this beautiful, dangerous man, was offering me everything I'd been desperately seeking. What if I said yes? The words came out barely above a whisper. What would that mean? It would mean you stay here, under my protection. It would mean I handle Marcus and anyone else who tries to hurt you. It would mean you get to decide what happens next, at your own pace, in your own time. His hand came up to cup my face, his touch achingly tender. It would mean I get to keep you safe until you're ready to decide what you really want. And if I decide I want to leave after all of this is over? Pain flashed in his eyes, quickly masked. Then I'll let you go. I told you, Sophie, I'm not Marcus. I won't cage you. I'll just spend every day proving that staying is the better choice. Before I could respond, before I could talk myself out of it, I found myself leaning into his touch, my eyes closing as his thumb stroked across my cheekbone. This was insane. Absolutely insane. I'd known this man less than 24 hours. He was a criminal, probably a killer, definitely dangerous. But when he touched me, I didn't feel afraid. I felt safe, protected, seen. A sharp knock at the door broke the moment. Sebastian dropped his hand, his expression shifting instantly to something harder, more controlled. Enter. A man I hadn't seen before stepped in, his expression grim. He was older than Sebastian, maybe mid-40s, with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Boss, we have a problem." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "What kind of problem?" "Sullivan's been asking around. He's got photos of the girl, showing them to his contacts in the shelters and hotels. Says she's mentally unstable, needs her medication, that he's worried about her safety." My stomach dropped. Of course. Marcus would spin it that way, making himself the concerned boyfriend while painting me as crazy. How many times had he threatened exactly that when I'd tried to leave before? "There's more," the man continued, his gaze flickering to me briefly. "He's connected to the Cucci family, not just taking bribes. He's actively working with them, intelligence sharing, protection, helping them move product. And he knows about you, boss. Knows you've been investigating their operation." Sebastian's expression turned to ice. "How long?" "We think at least 6 months, maybe longer." The room seemed to chill by several degrees. Sebastian moved back to his desk, his movements precise and controlled, but I could sense the fury beneath the surface. "Get Luca and Dante. I want everything we have on Sullivan. Financials, communications, associates, everything. Already being compiled." "Good." He glanced at me, and I saw calculation in his eyes. "Sophie, this changes things." "How?" "Marcus isn't just looking for you because you left him. He's looking for you because you might know something about his involvement with the Albanians. You're a liability to him now, to his whole operation." The blood drained from my face. "But I don't know anything. I didn't even know he was dirty until you told me." "He doesn't know that. For all he knows, you've been aware of his activities the entire time and you're planning to expose him." Sebastian's voice was grim. "That makes you a target not just for him, but for the Cucci family. They can't risk you talking to the wrong people." I sank into the nearest chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. "So what you're saying is, even if Marcus were gone, I'd still be in danger." "Until we eliminate the threat entirely, yes." "And how do you eliminate an entire crime family?" Sebastian's smile was cold and entirely predatory. "Very carefully and very thoroughly." The next 3 days passed in a strange blur of luxury and tension. I remained in Sebastian's mansion, a gilded cage that became increasingly comfortable even as the danger outside its walls grew more concrete. Mrs. Chen fussed over me, making sure I ate regular meals and had everything I needed. I explored the house during daylight hours, discovering a library that rivaled some bookstores, a gym that looked like something from a magazine, and a conservatory filled with winter blooms that seemed impossible given the frozen landscape outside. But beneath the surface calm, I could feel the machinery of Sebastian's organization grinding into motion. Men in dark suits came and went at all hours, speaking in low tones about things I wasn't meant to hear. Phones rang constantly. Sebastian himself seemed to be in perpetual motion, always on a call or in a meeting, though he made a point of having dinner with me each evening. Those dinners were the strangest part. We'd sit in the formal dining room, or sometimes, when it was just the two of us, in a smaller breakfast nook that felt almost intimate. And he'd ask about my day, my thoughts, my past. Not about Marcus. Never about Marcus unless I brought him up. But about me. What I'd wanted to be when I was a child. Why I'd left culinary school. What I dreamed about before everything fell apart. And slowly, against my better judgment, I found myself opening up to him. I wanted to open a bakery, I told him on the third night, over pasta that Mrs. Chen had made from scratch. Something small and cozy, the kind of place where regulars would come every morning for coffee and croissants. I even had a name picked out, Marshall's. You could still do that. Sebastian said it like it was simple, like the dream I'd abandoned hadn't been crushed under the weight of Marcus's control and my own lost confidence. It takes money to start a business. Money I don't have. I have money. I set down my fork. I'm not taking your money, Sebastian. Why not? Because I don't want to owe you anything more than I already do. His expression softened. You don't owe me anything, Sophie. Everything I'm doing because I want to. Because seeing you smile when you talk about baking makes me want to hand you the keys to an entire building and tell you to create whatever makes you happy. The sincerity in his voice made my chest ache. You don't even know me. Not really. I know enough. I know you're stronger than you think you are. I know you light up when you talk about creating something beautiful. I know you have nightmares about him still, because I hear you through the walls sometimes. But you never talk about them because you don't want anyone to know you're still afraid. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. I know that when I touch you like this, you don't flinch. And that matters more than you realize. He was right. I didn't flinch from his touch, even though every instinct I'd developed over 2 years with Marcus should have made me wary of any man's hands on me. But Sebastian's touch was different. Gentle, asking rather than demanding, offering comfort rather than claiming ownership. I'm terrified of this, I admitted quietly. Of you. Of what I'm starting to feel. Good. You should be. I'm not safe, Sophie. But I promise you, you're safe with me. There's a difference. Before I could respond, Marco appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. Sebastian's entire demeanor shifted instantly, his hand withdrawing from mine as he became the dangerous man who ran an empire. What is it? Sullivan's making moves. He's got people watching the shelters, the bus stations, and he's filed a missing persons report, claiming you're a danger to yourself. My hands clenched into fists. He's going to convince everyone I'm crazy, just like he always threatened. Let him try, Sebastian said coldly. Marco, status on our other project? Dante's people have everything ready. We can move on the Cucci warehouse tomorrow night. Should send the right message. Good. And our friend in the precinct? Captain Reynolds is on board. He'll make sure Sullivan's activities come to light at the right time. I looked between them, my stomach sinking. You have a police captain on your payroll? Sebastian's gaze met mine. I have several. The difference between my organization and the Albanians is that I'm very selective about my corruption. I only work with people who share my values. Values? You're bribing cops. I'm ensuring that the law serves justice instead of bureaucracy. He stood, moving to the window. Captain Reynolds is a good man who wants to clean up his department. I'm giving him the resources to do that. In exchange, he makes sure that people like Marcus Sullivan don't hide behind their badges. It's still wrong, perhaps, but it's effective. He turned back to me. I won't apologize for the choices I've made to build my power, Sophie. But I will use that power to protect you. Marco cleared his throat. Boss, there's one more thing. Sullivan's been to 3 of the Albanian clubs in the past 2 days. Looks like he's calling in favors, getting them to help with the search. Then we accelerate the timeline, Sebastian decided. I want everything in place by tomorrow night. And get some of our people on the street. If Sullivan's looking for Sophie, I want to know the moment he gets close. After Marco left, I remained at the table, processing everything I'd just heard. Tomorrow night, Sebastian was planning some kind of attack on the Albanian operation. An attack that would likely end in violence, possibly death. And it was all connected to me, to Marcus, to this increasingly complex web I'd stumbled into. You're going to start a war, I said quietly. I'm going to end one. He moved back to the table, kneeling beside my chair so we were at eye level. The Cucci family has been encroaching on my territory for months. Marcus Sullivan has been feeding them information about my operations. This would have happened eventually. You just accelerated the timeline. People are going to die. People die every day in my world, Sophie. The question is whether those deaths serve a purpose. I looked into his eyes, those dark, fathomless eyes that held such intensity. And what purpose does this serve? It serves the purpose of keeping you safe, of eliminating threats, of making sure Marcus Sullivan understands that touching you was the last mistake he'll ever make. I don't want you to kill him because of me. Then consider it a bonus. I'm killing him because he's a corrupt cop working with my enemies. The fact that he hurt you just makes me feel better about it. The cold logic of it should have horrified me. Maybe a week ago it would have. But after 3 days in Sebastian's world, I was beginning to understand the brutal mathematics of survival in this life. Marcus had made himself a threat on multiple fronts. In Sebastian's world, threats were eliminated. What happens after? I asked. After Marcus is gone, after the Albanians are handled, what happens to me? Sebastian's hand came up to cup my face, his touch achingly gentle. That's entirely up to you. You can leave, start over somewhere new with a new identity and enough money to open 10 bakeries. Or, he paused, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. Or you can stay. Build your life here, under my protection. See where this thing between us goes. This thing, this magnetic pull that's had me thinking about you every moment since you climbed into my car. This connection that makes me want to give you everything you've ever wanted and destroy anyone who's ever hurt you. His voice dropped lower. This feeling that tells me you were meant to be mine. My breath caught. Sebastian, you feel it too. I know you do. I did. God help me, I did. This man I'd known for 3 days had somehow worked his way under my skin, past the defenses I'd built so carefully. When he looked at me, I felt seen. When he touched me, I felt cherished. When he promised to protect me, I believed him. I'm broken, I whispered. Marcus broke something in me. I don't know if I can ever fully trust someone again, if I can ever be what you deserve. You're not broken. You're healing. And I'm patient. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. I'll wait as long as it takes, Sophie. I'll prove to you every single day that I'm nothing like him, that my hands will only ever touch you with gentleness, that my protection comes without strings attached. Everything has strings attached. Not with me. Not with you. His lips brushed against mine, feather-light, asking permission. Let me show you the difference between ownership and devotion. I should have pulled away, should have maintained the distance, kept my guard up, protected what little remained of my battered heart. But I was so tired of being afraid, so tired of second-guessing every instinct. And my instincts were screaming at me to lean into this man, to trust him, to take the leap. So I did. I closed the distance between us, my lips meeting his in a kiss that started gentle but quickly became something more. His hand tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, but never demanding. I could feel the restraint in him, the careful control he was maintaining even as heat flared between us. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine again. Stay, he murmured, not just until Marcus is handled. Stay with me. Let me prove that I can make you happy. I'm terrified. Good. Fear means you're still fighting, still feeling. Just direct that fear outward, at the people who deserve it, and trust me to handle the rest. A commotion from the front of the house interrupted us. Raised voices, someone shouting. Sebastian was on his feet instantly, positioning himself between me and the door, his hand moving to the gun I hadn't realized he was carrying. Marco burst in, his face pale. Boss, we have a problem. Sullivan's here. He's at the front gate with 3 Albanian enforcers, demanding we turn over Sophie. My blood ran cold. How did he find me? Doesn't matter now. Sebastian's voice was ice. How many men do we have on site? 8, counting me. But boss, Sullivan's got his badge out. He's threatening to call in backup. Make this official. Let him try. Sebastian turned to me, his expression fierce. Go to my private room, 3rd floor, end of the hall. Lock yourself in. Don't come out for anyone but me. Sebastian. Now, Sophie. The command in his voice left no room for argument. I ran. Sebastian's private room was exactly what I'd expected. Masculine, sparse, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the front drive. I could see them from here. Marcus's car, a black sedan, and 2 SUVs I didn't recognize. 4 men stood at the gate. Marcus's familiar form front and center, his badge held up like a talisman. I locked the door and pressed myself against the wall beside the window, watching as Sebastian emerged from the front entrance with Marco and several other men I recognized from around the house. Even from this distance, I could see the confidence in Sebastian's bearing, the dangerous grace that marked him as the predator he truly was. They approached the gate but didn't open it. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see Marcus gesturing wildly, pointing toward the house. One of the men with him, built like a tank with a shaved head, reached for something at his waist. Before I could even process what was happening, the situation exploded into violence. The tank man drew a gun. Sebastian's men responded instantly, weapons appearing from beneath jackets. Marcus stumbled backward, shocked by the sudden escalation. Someone shouted. Then the night erupted in gunfire. I dropped to the floor, my hands over my ears, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. This was my fault. This violence, these bullets flying, the very real possibility of death. All of it because I'd climbed into Sebastian's car 3 nights ago. The shooting lasted maybe 30 seconds, though it felt like hours. Then silence, broken only by the ringing in my ears. I crawled to the window, peering over the sill. 3 bodies on the ground outside the gate. The Albanians who'd come with Marcus. Marcus himself was on his knees, hands behind his head, Sebastian's gun pressed to the back of his skull. Even from here, I could see the terror on Marcus's face, the complete reversal of power. Sebastian leaned down, saying something I couldn't hear. Marcus's whole body went rigid. Then Sebastian straightened, spoke to Marco, and walked back toward the house, leaving Marco and 2 others to handle Marcus. I was still on the floor when Sebastian entered the room minutes later, using a key I hadn't known he possessed. He locked the door behind him and crossed to where I sat trembling against the wall. Are you hurt? His hands were on me immediately, checking for injuries with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the violence I'd just witnessed. I'm fine. I'm not the one who was just in a gunfight. My voice came out shaky. Marcus is currently being questioned in one of my warehouses. He'll tell us everything about his arrangement with the Kutsi family, and then he'll be dealt with. Dealt with? I looked up at him. You're going to kill him? Yes. The simple honesty of it was somehow more chilling than any elaborate justification would have been. Sebastian, He came here with armed men, Sophie. He was going to take you by force, probably kill me and anyone who got in his way. This isn't about what he did to you anymore, though that would be reason enough. This is about him attempting an armed assault on my home. I knew he was right. I'd seen the guns, the violence in Marcus's eyes even from a distance, but the reality of it, that a man I'd once loved, however mistakenly, was about to die because of me, made bile rise in my throat. Sebastian sank down beside me on the floor, pulling me into his arms. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry you're caught in this world. But you're not sorry about what you're going to do to him. No, I'm not. He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. He beat you, terrorized you, drove you to sleep in the snow rather than stay with him. He's corrupt, working with my enemies, and he just attempted to storm my home with armed men. There's no scenario where he walks away from this, Sophie. Not anymore. I know. And I did. Some part of me had known from the moment Sebastian promised protection that this was how it would end. I don't want to be the kind of person who's okay with murder. You're not okay with it. You're accepting it as a necessary evil. There's a difference. His arms tightened around me. In my world, Sophie, there are only two kinds of people: predators and prey. Marcus was a predator who disguised himself as a protector. I'm a predator who's honest about what I am. The question is, which would you rather have on your side? Put that way, the answer was obvious. I leaned into his embrace, letting his warmth chase away the chill that had settled in my bones. What happens now? Now, my people extract information from Marcus about the Albanian operation. Tomorrow night, we move on their warehouse, cut off their supply lines and their leadership. Within a week, the Kutsi family will be finished in this city, and you'll be safe. And Marcus will be gone before morning. He won't suffer, Sophie. I'll make sure of that. For you. The fact that he thought not suffering was a kindness told me everything about the world he inhabited. But I was too tired to argue, too overwhelmed by the events of the past hour to do anything but accept the reality I'd fallen into. We sat like that for a long time, Sebastian holding me while my heartbeat gradually returned to normal. Eventually, he stood, pulling me with him. You should rest. It's been a traumatic evening. I don't think I can sleep. Then at least lie down. I need to handle some things, but I'll be back soon. He guided me to the massive bed that dominated his room, pulling back the covers. Wait for me here. You're staying with me tonight. It should have felt like another line being crossed, another step deeper into his world. Instead, it felt like safety. I climbed into his bed, still fully clothed, and watched as he moved to the door. Sebastian? He turned back. Thank you for protecting me, for everything. Something soft passed across his face. Always, Sophie, for as long as you'll let me. After he left, I lay in his bed, surrounded by his scent, sandalwood and something darker, uniquely him, and tried to process everything. 3 nights ago, I'd been homeless and desperate. Now I was in a mob boss's bed, waiting for him to return after ordering the execution of my ex-boyfriend. My life had become something out of a crime novel, and the terrifying part was how quickly I was adapting to it. I must have dozed off eventually because I woke to Sebastian sliding into bed beside me, his arms pulling me against his chest. He was warm and solid, and I found myself relaxing into his embrace despite everything. Is it done? I whispered into the darkness. It's done. Marcus Sullivan won't hurt anyone ever again. I should have felt something. Grief, horror, guilt. Instead, I just felt tired. And safe. So safe in this dangerous man's arms. Sophie? His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. Are you going to leave when this is all over? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I could leave. Sebastian would give me everything I needed to start over. But the truth was, I didn't want to. Somewhere in the past few days, this dangerous man had become my safe harbor. This violent world had become my sanctuary. No, I whispered. I'm staying. His arms tightened around me. Thank God. We lay like that in silence, and slowly I felt something inside me begin to shift. The fear that had been my constant companion for 2 years was receding, replaced by something new. Not quite peace, not yet, but possibility. The possibility of a future without constantly looking over my shoulder. The possibility of happiness with a man who killed to protect me rather than to control me. I think I'm falling for you, I admitted into the darkness. and it terrifies me. I know. I'm already there. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. But we have time, Sophie. All the time in the world to figure this out. No pressure, no demands. Just stay. Let me take care of you. Let me prove that not all powerful men are monsters. You kill people. Yes, but only the ones who deserve it. And I promise you, I will never ever turn that violence on you. You are sacred to me, Sophie, the one person in my world who will never have to fear me. I turned in his arms, looking up at his face in the dim light from the windows. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if I ever want to leave, you'll let me go. No matter how you feel, no matter what's happening. Promise me you'll never cage me. I promise. He cupped my face, his touch infinitely gentle. I want you to choose me every day, Sophie. And that choice only means something if you're free to make it. I believed him. Against all logic, against all my learned caution, I believed him. And that belief felt like the first real breath I'd taken in years. When he kissed me, it was different from before. Deeper, more intense, filled with promise and possession, and a tenderness that made my chest ache. I kissed him back, pouring into it all the fear and hope and desperate longing I'd been carrying. Stay with me, he murmured against my lips. Not just tonight. Stay with me and let me show you what you deserve. Let me give you the world. I don't need the world, I whispered back. I just need to feel safe. Then that's what I'll give you. Every single day for the rest of your life, if you'll let me. And there, in the darkness of his room, surrounded by the evidence of his dangerous life, but cocooned in his protective embrace, I made my choice. I chose the predator who promised safety over the prey's constant flight. I chose the man who killed my monsters over the man who became one. I chose Sebastian Moretti, in all his beautiful, terrible complexity. And for the first time in years, I chose myself. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of controlled violence and careful planning. True to his word, Sebastian moved against the Albanian operation with ruthless efficiency. I stayed at the mansion, pacing and worrying, while he and his men dismantled the Cucci family's presence in the city, piece by piece. Mrs. Chen tried to distract me with cooking lessons in the massive kitchen, teaching me techniques I'd never learned in my abbreviated time at culinary school. It helped, focusing on the precise art of laminating dough or the chemistry of emulsions, but I couldn't fully escape the awareness that Sebastian was out there risking his life. For me. Because of me. He called every few hours, his voice steady and calm, assuring me that everything was proceeding according to plan. By the time he returned just after midnight, exhausted but unharmed, the Albanian operation in New York had been effectively neutralized. It's over? I asked, meeting him at the door. It's over. He pulled me into his arms, and I could feel the tension draining from his body. The Cucci brothers are in custody. Not mine, but the FBI's. Turns out they've been building a case for months, and were happy to receive an anonymous tip about tonight's weapons shipment. The rest of their organization will fall apart without leadership. And Marcus? His body was found in the river this morning. Apparent suicide, jump from the bridge. At least, that's what the preliminary police report will say. His voice was neutral, but I could hear the edge beneath it. Captain Reynolds made sure the right people are handling the investigation. The truth about Marcus's corruption will come out slowly, posthumously. By the end of the week, he'll be remembered as a dirty cop who couldn't live with his guilt. I should have felt horror at the casual way he discussed murder and cover-ups. Instead, I felt relief. Marcus was gone. The threat was neutralized. For the first time in 2 years, I could breathe without fear. So what happens now? I asked. Sebastian pulled back slightly, looking down at me with an intensity that made my heart race. Now, you decide what you want. You're safe, Sophie. Free. You can go anywhere. Do anything. The world is yours. And if what I want is to stay here, with you. Something fierce and possessive flared in his eyes. Then I spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice. The next morning, Sebastian surprised me by taking me into the city. We drove to a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Upscale but not ostentatious, with tree-lined streets and charming storefronts. He pulled up in front of an empty corner unit with large windows and a for lease sign. "What are we doing here?" I asked. He didn't answer, just took my hand and led me inside. The space was perfect. Not too large, with exposed brick walls, high ceilings with original tin tiles, and enough room for a commercial kitchen, seating area, and display cases. "It's perfect for a bakery," I breathed, seeing it instantly. The windows would let in perfect light, and the corner location means foot traffic from 2 streets. "It's yours if you want it," Sebastian said simply. "The building owner owes me a favor. I can have the lease drawn up by end of business today." I turned to stare at him. "You can't just buy me a bakery." "I'm not buying it. I'm giving you the opportunity to build it yourself. The lease, the equipment, the initial inventory. Consider it an investment in your future. After that, the business succeeds or fails on your talent alone. This is too much. It's not nearly enough." He moved closer, his hands coming to rest on my shoulders. "You gave up your dreams because of Marcus, because of fear and violence and all the ways he made you small. I'm just giving you the chance to reclaim them." Tears stung my eyes. "Why? Why do all this for me?" "Because I love you, Sophie." He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I've loved you since that first night when you looked up at me with fear and defiance in equal measure. I love your strength, your resilience, the way you light up when you talk about creating something beautiful, and I want to spend the rest of my life giving you reasons to keep choosing me." "I love you too," I whispered, the words feeling both terrifying and right. "It's too fast. It's probably insane, but I do. I love you, Sebastian." The kiss he gave me then was everything. Gentle and fierce, claiming and cherishing. A promise sealed with lips and breath, and the sheer force of emotion between us. Over the following weeks, my new life took shape. I signed the lease on the bakery space, began planning the layout and menu, worked with contractors Sebastian recommended to get the kitchen up to code. Mrs. Chen became my partner in testing recipes, her expertise in cooking translating surprisingly well to pastry. Sebastian was there for every milestone: the first equipment delivery, the inspection approval, the day the sign went up over the door with the name I'd dreamed of years ago, Marshall's. But it wasn't all sweetness and light. I had nightmares still, waking up gasping with the phantom feeling of Marcus's hands on me. Each time, Sebastian was there, holding me, reminding me I was safe. We started couples therapy, his suggestion, not mine, with a discreet therapist who specialized in trauma and asked no questions about Sebastian's occupation. 3 months after that first night in his car, Marshall's opened its doors. The line wrapped around the block, and I knew Sebastian had something to do with it. Probably encouraged every business owner in his sphere of influence to send their employees my way. But as the days passed and the customers kept coming back, I started to believe they were returning for the quality of my croissants, not because they were afraid of the man who protected me. 6 months after opening, on a quiet Tuesday morning before the bakery opened, Sebastian came in through the back door as he often did. But this time, he wasn't alone. Marco and 2 other men I recognized flanked him, all wearing suits more formal than usual. My heart jumped. "What's wrong? Is there another threat?" "No threat," Sebastian assured me, crossing to where I stood at the counter, my hands dusted with flour from the morning's baking. but there is something important I need to ask you." And then, surrounded by the smell of fresh bread and the evidence of my reclaimed dreams, this dangerous, beautiful man dropped to one knee. "Sophie Marshall," he began, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "6 months ago, you climbed into my car seeking shelter from a storm. You gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. You trusted me with your safety, your future, your heart. You showed me that strength isn't just about power and control, but about vulnerability and courage." Tears were already streaming down my face. "I promise to protect you every day of your life. I promise to support your dreams and celebrate your successes. I promise that my hands will only ever touch you with gentleness, that my power will only ever shield you, that my love will only ever lift you up." He opened the box, revealing a ring that took my breath away. A simple band with 3 stones, a sapphire, a diamond, and an emerald. "Marry me, Sophie. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of the gift you've given me." "Yes," I whispered through my tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto my finger. A perfect fit, of course, because Sebastian planned everything. Then he rose, pulling me into his arms, and kissed me while Marco and the other men applauded. "The stones represent our journey," he murmured against my lips. "Blue for the cold night when I found you. White for the purity of what we've built together. Green for the growth that's still to come. It's perfect. You're perfect. This is all—" I couldn't finish, overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility of how my life had transformed. "No, you're perfect," he corrected. "I'm just the man lucky enough to catch you when you fell." We were married 3 months later in a private ceremony at our mansion. The guest list was small. Mrs. Chen, who cried through the entire ceremony, Marco and a few of Sebastian's most trusted men, the therapist who'd helped me heal, and Captain Reynolds, who'd quietly ensured Marcus's corruption was exposed while protecting me from any fallout. There was no mention of Sebastian's business in the vows, no acknowledgement of the darker side of his empire. For that one perfect day, we were just Sophie and Sebastian, 2 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and chosen to build a life together despite every logical reason not to. My wedding gift to him was a piece of art I'd commissioned, a painting of his car in the snow, with a figure barely visible through the window. A reminder of the night that changed everything. His gift to me was a document, the deed to the building where Marshall's operated, and the papers making it entirely mine, free and clear. "You earned this," he said when I protested. "Every success, every customer, every 5-star review. That's all you, Sophie. I just gave you the opportunity. You made it real." Life settled into a rhythm after that. Days at the bakery, which expanded to include a second location within the year. Evenings with Sebastian, learning to navigate the balance between his world and mine. Some of his associates made me uncomfortable. I couldn't fully separate myself from the knowledge of what they were, what they did. But I learned to focus on what I could control. My business, my marriage, my own healing. The nightmares became less frequent. The instinct to flinch at sudden movements faded. I could disagree with Sebastian without fear, could have an argument without terror that it would turn violent. Slowly, painstakingly, I reclaimed the parts of myself that Marcus had tried to destroy, and Sebastian kept every promise he'd made that first night. He protected me. He supported me. He loved me with a fierce intensity that never once felt like ownership. 1 year after our wedding, I stood in Marshall's during the early morning prep, my hands deep in dough, when Sebastian entered looking more serious than usual. "What is it?" I asked, wiping my hands on my apron. "I need to tell you something." He led me to the small office in the back, closing the door. "There's been a development. One of the Coochie brothers, the younger one. He's been released from prison. Technicality in the arrest. And he's making noise about revenge. My stomach dropped. For what we did to his family? For what I did. But you're my wife now, Sophie. That makes you a target. He took my hands. I wanted you to hear it from me before you heard it anywhere else. And I want you to know, I have people on this. He won't get anywhere near you. Should I be scared? No. You should trust me to handle this, the same way I've handled every other threat. His grip tightened. The difference between Marcus and me, Sophie? Marcus created danger in your life. I eliminate it. And he did. The younger Coochie brother disappeared from the city within a week, last spotted boarding a plane to Albania, with the understanding that returning to American soil would be a fatal mistake. Life in Sebastian's world wasn't always easy. There were always threats, always complications, always the awareness that the man I loved had blood on his hands. But those hands had never hurt me. Those hands had lifted me up, protected me, helped me build a life beyond my wildest dreams. 2 years after that night in the snow, I stood in our bedroom, looking at myself in the mirror. My bakery was thriving with 3 locations now. The nightmares were rare, occasional echoes rather than constant torment. And my hand rested protectively over the small swell of my stomach, where new life grew, a symbol of the future we were building together. Sebastian came up behind me, his arms wrapping around me, his hands joining mine over our unborn child. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. I leaned back against his chest, feeling safe and loved and entirely at peace with the impossible choice I'd made when I climbed into his car seeking shelter from a storm. "I'm more than happy," I answered truthfully. "I'm home." And I was. Not in the mansion with its luxury and security, not in the bakery with its warm ovens and satisfied customers, but here, in the arms of the dangerous man who'd taught me the difference between possession and protection, between control and care, between a cage and a sanctuary. I'd sought shelter from a snowstorm and found a love that burned bright enough to melt every last bit of ice from my broken heart. Sometimes the most unexpected paths lead us exactly where we need to be. Sometimes the most dangerous man is the safest harbor. And sometimes, when you're homeless and desperate, climbing into a stranger's car is the beginning of coming home.